Well, this presentation is just a small part of what's in that book, The Origin Speaks. Okay? There's a lot of stuff in there, but this bit I think is going to be supposedly recognisable, a bit of fun because you're all going to join in with the presentation, and also enlightening at the same time. So we're going to talk about what we are and how we incarnate. Hands up, all of you who think you know what we are. Oh, you're cheating. You're cheating. Where are they? Have you told them, Paul? Okay, so I'm going to go through a presentation, an interactive presentation that goes through a definition of what we are, what our personal hierarchy is, because that's in some small way also represents the hierarchy between the source, our creator, and what our true energetic selves are, what our structure is whilst we incarnate, okay, and how we incarnate. And there's just a flavour here of how we incarnate. It's not the full list, there's much more to it, but these are just some things that you'll recognise. And then I'll go through a little bit about how it affects us psychologically when we incarnate in some of these different ways, how we interact with others. And then how we commune with our true energetic self once we finish our incarnation. And if we've got time, we'll go through some questions and answers. Okay. So then, question to you all. What are we? Anybody, shout out. What are we? Source consciousness, stardust, energy. Right. Up until I started to work with this book, I thought we were energy beings. One thing's for sure, that we are not what? We're not the human being, are we? We're not the human being. But more importantly, I found out that we're not energy beings. So if we're not the human being that we're in here now, and we're not energy beings, what are we? Consciousness. Who said consciousness? Yeah? Anybody else say consciousness? Yeah? Anything else? Frequency. Good. Anything else? Light. Yeah. All part of the same thing. But they're all different answers. So we're confused, aren't we? We don't know what we are. We do not know what we are. So, shall I explain to my current level of understanding? Because it's transient. As we get deeper into the knowledge base, we move on with our understanding, and we're allowed to see more. Dolores knew this. Every time she was given the baby food, that just prepared her for taking a little bit of meat later, a bit of vegetable later, and not just the mush that we get in baby food. So it's our beingness, by the way, that defines us. We're not the human being. We're not the energy being. It is our beingness which makes us what we are. Yeah? A definition, and I actually don't like this myself because it actually detracts from the actual answer of what we really, really are. But I was told to use it in the start. Okay? So our beingness is defined as our true energetic self. The energetic bit being a little bit of a red herring actually, but it's the same as the oversoul. The word that Dolores was told to use. It's the same as the Godhead. The same as Hindu philosophy uses. It's the same as the higher self, what we tend to use in the Western world. But if it's all these things, and all the things you said as well, what is the true energetic self? What is the Godhead? What is the oversoul? What is the higher self? Has anybody got an idea? Talked about consciousness, being energy, being frequency. What else is left? God? We are an individualized unit of God, correct. Mind. Yes. Extrapolate. Go further, backwards. What is mind? Consciousness. Go further back. Light. Going back down the hill now. Thoughts go in the right direction. Yeah. Knowingness, beingness, yeah. But what creates all of these things? What creates the desire? What creates knowledge? Vibration? Will? What creates will?
Intent?
Yeah. Desire. Go above desire. I desire to know what we are. Yeah. Determination. All of these things are functions of what we are. They're all the process, the downstream functions of what we are. Somebody said consciousness. Consciousness is part of the road that energy will go to on its route to something else. When we talk about being spiritually aware, we talk about what? Being self. Right. What's above self-awareness? It begins with an S, the word. Spirit. Nearly. Keep going. Nearly. Oh, source. I'm going to, whoops, apart from tripping over, I'm going to tell you what it is. Otherwise we'll be here all afternoon. Our true self is pure sentience. Yeah? That which is beyond consciousness, self-awareness, and conscious creativity. That which we are. But more than that, we are sentience given a body of energy. Our body of energy is a vehicle that we use to house the sentience. It's how we move around the environments that we evolve through. That part of the source which has been used for us to help it evolve through. Now here's the tricky bit. We can move that sentience from one group or body of energies to another. When we understand who and what we are and how we can work with those energies, we can move around. So the body of energy that we are given is actually given to us by our Creator, our Source. When we evolve to the point where we understand what we are, we can move that sentience away from that original body of energies. Think of it as a sphere of energy if you want to. Anywhere around the source, anywhere around the multiversal environments that it's given us to work with. And we can therefore relocate our sentience. And we do so. In fact, we just don't do so. Our source entity does it as well. But that's the product of another lecture, maybe next year. We'll talk about evolutionary cycles. Okay. So we are sentience. We are pure sentience. Pure sentience creates, understands what it creates, perfects that creation, reproduces it, and keeps going. Sees where it can use that level of creativity to advance its own evolutionary progression. Progression is above evolution. Evolution is just one part of what we do as we progress. One of the ways in which we use our sentience is to experience different environments. Our true self, or true energetic self, our higher self, oversoul, or Godhead, desires to accelerate its own evolutionary progress. And it does this by incarnating, by experiencing the lower frequencies of the multiversal environment in the most profoundly integrated and immersed way to experience things that it would never do normally. But there's a structure behind that, okay? So we have a hierarchical structure. This structure is sort of static, but it will work with parallel conditions. Those of you who've read my books and the books of other people who talk about parallel environments will realize that we don't just exist in one particular reality, we have multiple realities that we can exist within. Okay. One of the ways we do this in a static function is to project parts of us. Not this bit in here, not the aspect, not the soul, but the parts of us that are the bigger part of us, which is the true energetic self. Okay? So we project those parts out and they become souls. Or they become sub-souls. I'll explain a little bit more right now. How many of you recognise that the number 12 keeps increasing in its popularity and its use in spiritual work? Yeah? Hands up. Why is that? The reason behind it is because number 12 proliferates itself in the structure of the origin, which is copied down into the structure of the source and into ourselves. So what we can do in terms of our reproducibility or our diversification of self is based upon 12. So we can, in our higher self sense, our true energetic self sense, our Godhead sense, our oversouled sense, can project a maximum of 12 aspects of ourselves. I'm talking about ourselves now in the higher self sense, not in the soul sense. Okay? The soul sense is something that we as human beings use to associate ourselves with our spirit. That's a little bit limited in terms of what we really are. So think of yourself as your higher self now. Put your minds in your higher self's position. So you're not aspects or souls incarnate in the human body. You are now your higher self, thinking of yourself as this much bigger ball of energy, this much larger aspect of individualized unit of sentience of the source. So there's 12 aspects that can be projected down from the true energetic self out into various different multiversal environments or universal environments to experience different things in a parallel but linear condition. The parallelisms occur when we have the opportunity to create a choice, a dualistic, trialistic, quadralistic choice, where we have the possibility of possibilities or the possibility of possible possibilities to create other environments through having a chance of going this way or that way, meeting this person there converted to invariance to this person over here, and the different fractalizations that happen from that. Now, in general, there is a percentage of sentience which remains in the energetic. 70% remains in the energetic. So if ourselves as true energetic selves or Godheads or oversouls projected all of our 12 aspects that we could project into the physical or other parts of the multiversal environment were in fact projected, 70% of us would remain energetic. The other 30% would be spread out between those 12 different aspects or souls, which means that there's only about 2.5% of our sentience per soul. So I'm only 2.5% of what I should be. Does that explain a few things by any chance? Now then, as souls or aspects, we are particularly powerful, aren't we? We are creators. We are massive creators. And so we can in ourselves project 12 smaller versions of ourselves, 12 sub-souls, 12 shards, again out into various different areas within the physical or multiversal environment. But as with the true energetic self, we must maintain 70% of our own sentience. So if we projected down 12 shards of our aspect or our soul, then each of those shards would have 2.5% of the sentience. So they're not particularly bright, these characters, when they're incarnate. Okay? So in effect, if everything is projected out in a linear fashion, there can be 144 projections from our higher self, our true energetic self, our Godhead. All of these things are concurrently understood. The memories, the actions, the emotions, the behavior, the beingness, the words, the thoughts, the experiences, the memories, are all concurrently absorbed by us as the true energetic self. Okay. Any questions? No, not yet. But doesn't it make you think how big we really are, what we really are, and how we work? So I'm going to talk a little bit about our structure whilst we incarnate. Although I'm not going to go into the detail of incarnation, that's the lead into another book, which I'm about to finish, by the way. This explains to us what happens to us. Okay? The process of incarnation is quite complex, but simplistically put, a small part of the sentient energy that is part of our true energetic self projects itself into what? A human body, an energy being that has a series of step-down frequencies to experience this low environmental condition we call the physical universe. So how many frequencies are associated with us? 12? 12? 10. Greg's got it. Yeah? Typically we know of 7, don't we? Most spiritualists, healers, mediums, channelers, authors, devotees of the truth will recognize that there are 7 energy levels associated with the human form. Those energy levels comprise the requirement to create the human vehicle that we see right now. The first 3 are to create the gross physical. The next 4 create what I call the spirituo-physical, or I should say what I've been told to call the spirituo-physical. These are the essence of the vehicle that we use now. But there's also 3 other frequencies. These are step-down functions. These allow the energies of significantly higher frequency of where we are now from our true energetic self to be funneled down, so to speak, into the body that we call the human vehicle. And so in essence, there is 10 frequencies associated with the human form. 10 frequencies. The first 3 we don't generally know about too much because we don't see them. There's no chakras associated with them. There's no auric layer associated with them. There's no real connectivity associated with them that we as spiritual individuals on the path of being aware and awake would recognize because they're too high frequency. But when our true energetic self decides to experience a low frequency environment, it decides to do it in a way that is consistent with that low frequency environment. We have to experience resistance, pain, suffering, joy, delight, humor, okay? Demise, birth, excitement, joy, horror, pleasure. And we do it by squeezing that little part of that sentience into this body. And the way it does that is by projecting this cord of energy that's called the Hara line. And the Hara line goes down from the true energetic self right down through the energy system to the 0 point, which is called the Tantien. The Tantien exists sort of 3 inches above the navel and 3 inches into the center of the body, close to the spine. Around this point is the area of the plexuses, where all the chakras join up and spread out and are there to receive energy to maintain the animation, the battery, if you want to call it that, the mains power for the physical form to work. When the essence of what we are, our sentience, comes down this Hara line, it stops at the Tantien and anchors itself. It then goes up to another area close to where the heart chakras, front and rear aspect, join the Hara line and creates another area called the soul seat. This is the essence of what we are. Our soul seat is the essence of where we are, and it's just behind the sternum here, where the heart chakras are. And from there, the energy associated with the control of the human form spreads out, and we get the meridian lines that go to the chakras, the mini chakras, the minor chakras. And the ability for the soul, the aspect, to animate the body and experience this environment through the body is achieved. And that allows us to experience incarnate activity, to be here, to understand how to exist here and to do things. But some of the ways we incarnate are interesting. And some of the ways we incarnate actually quite known to you guys here. So what I'm going to do is to run through a few of those and see if you can remember some of the ways in which we do incarnate. Okay. One of the ways is what we call twin flames. But what's a twin flame? The answer's here. Okay. What's a twin flame? Yeah. A twin flame is the sharing of the same soul between two bodies. It's nothing to do with being a soulmate. No, that's spoilt it now. Soulmate's something else. Okay? A twin flame is two individuals who share the same soul. It's usually a function of the twinning process at the embryo stage, at gestation, where that soul can very easily go into those two bodies and grow together. But sometimes that soul can be split into three and be involved in triplets, although we don't tend to see triplets functioning in the same way as twins do we? There's always one odd, isn't there? Okay? The one triplet is different to the two twins. Okay? But the thing is, it doesn't necessarily mean that soul needs to function in the same way. And so a soul can split itself into various different parts outside of being a shard, okay, and place itself into different bodies that aren't necessarily within the same womb. So when we see somebody who's a twin flame, it might not necessarily be that person is born from the same mother. It can be different mothers. And so when you experience this twin flame, it's not the same thought process that you would expect to see from somebody who is twinned by birth. So what about soulmates then? If a twin flame's not a soulmate, what is it? Any thoughts? Come on, all of you out there just got new relationships who think you've met your twin flame or your soulmate. Hands up. Yeah. Yeah. It's a split. Yeah. Any other quick thoughts? What's a soulmate? What is a soulmate? Not quite. But it's a good one though. Ooh, very close. Souls that complement each other with similar vibrations or frequencies. Well, we all do that anyway, because we're all soulmates in actuality, because we're all part of the same source. But this is like a level down. Anybody else? Very quickly. Projections. Hang on to that one. Don't forget it. I want you to speak up in a moment. Did you hear that? That was souls that incarnate time after time together. Hang on to that one. That's important. A soulmate. Soulmates are aspects or souls that are projected from the same true energetic self. Aspects or souls that are projected from the same true energetic self, or Godhead, or Oversoul, or Higher Self, are part of a soul group. Oh, we're slow today. Soul group. So soulmates are part of a soul group, and the soul group is a function of all of those aspects or souls that are projected from the true energetic self, the Godhead. Okay. They're all part of a soul group. However, you can get smaller soul groups. So if you projected all 12 from an aspect and got 12 shards, those 12 shards would be part of a local soul group. But if we had, as in the previous slide, the true energetic self projecting all 12 aspects, they're all part of a soul group, the higher level soul group. If each of those then projects down 12 aspects of themselves to create 12 shards, times 12, then each of those is part of a smaller soul group that is associated with the aspect and not the true energetic self. Soulmates are interesting because we know we have a soulmate the moment we see one. We don't just communicate with with our voice, with our eyes, with our olfactory organs, okay, our sense of smell. We communicate energetically all of the time. As a result of that, we know the energy signature of a soulmate pretty much instantaneously. So when you see a soulmate or you meet a soulmate, it's extremely profound. You know them, you feel them, you sense them, you think their thoughts, they know your thoughts. You sometimes even know what they've had for lunch. If it's garlic, it's not too good sometimes. Okay. But it's extremely rare to meet a soulmate. Yeah? There's only 12 of them in the whole of the multiverse, potentially. And so to find a soulmate, a true soulmate, is extremely difficult. So when you think you've met your soulmate, it might be something else. It might be a twin flame, or yeah, well done. And what are those called? Sympathetic souls. Okay. A sympathetic soul is a soul that is interacting with another soul or aspect from a different true energetic self. And they do it on a regular basis. They do it often. Again, the energy is recognized instantly. Yeah? It's there all of the time. And it feels like a soulmate. And so it should do. You know this energy, this person, this thing, this aspect, this soul. Okay? It's part of what you are, to recognize energy. So you work with these things all the time. It's just that we don't know what we're dealing with sometimes and how to describe it. Now it gets a bit interesting. You know, I talked about shards, and shard being an aspect of a soul, a sub-soul, if you want to call it that. Well, we can have something else instead. We can have something that is a primary incarnation that can create a secondary incarnation. So we can incarnate and then have an incarnation within an incarnation. This incarnation isn't a parallel incarnation, it's linear. But there is the possibility, of course, of different realities that are created through the different choices that we make, the dualities, trialities, quadrualities, the possibility of possible possibilities, and the possibility of those possible possibilities being possible, and the fractalized parallel environments that we create. But this is fairly static. This is when an entity, an aspect, decides to incarnate in a higher frequency vehicle, a higher frequency body. A body that is still incarnate as a vehicle, but is at a higher frequency within the structure of the physical universe. In a frequency so high that we would consider it energetic. We experience this a lot sometimes. We see craft come and go. We see individuals appearing in front of our faces and then disappear. But the aspect or soul that incarnates in a vehicle, a body, that is higher than where we are now, is able to have the functionality associated with that frequency. And so, above a certain level, a soul or aspect is fully aware and fully capable of everything that it can do when it's in the disincarnate state, whilst being incarnate. And as a result of that, it can decide to leave that body, to leave it behind, to leave it in stasis, and then move out into a different form, to enjoy an incarnation that may take several years from our perspective, and then feed back that information to its primary incarnate state. Sometimes that body is still maintained, and sometimes the body is still active, and the soul travels backwards and forwards between the primary and secondary incarnate vehicle. That can cause some confusion sometimes because of the memories that sometimes leak between the two. But there's some interesting phenomena with this, and I'll go into it later, because it can cause disorientation. Some of you may think or feel that you aren't human, that you come from some other place in the stars, the galaxy, the universe. How many of you think that? Ooh, do you think you might be a secondary incarnation? Yeah? How many of you feel there's another part of you somewhere else that is active, that's experiencing a different existence concurrently? Yeah. How many of you get memories that aren't consistent with this incarnation? Yes. So you guys might just be secondary incarnations. The incarnation within an incarnation. Nothing to worry about. It's normal business for us as sentient beings. Here we go. Sub-incarnations. These are the shards. Okay? The sub-incarnation is a definition of what a shard is. It's not the real incarnation. It's a way in which we can experience things in a multiple condition. Not a parallel, a multiple condition. It allows us to experience many lives and get those experiences in and feed them back into this aspect. So some of us might think that we're experiencing many lives concurrently. How many of you think that you're experiencing 2 or 3 lives at the same time? Yeah. Provided you're the aspect and not the shard, and I will have to say that shards wouldn't be here because shards don't have the sentient capacity to be here, by the way, then you would feel that you're experiencing different lives at the same time. Sometimes they're in the same environment. Sometimes they're in different parts of the physical universe. But it's not a parallel life. It's a linear, concurrent life. The only scary thing about being a shard is that when you demise, you completely recommune with your aspect. It's not scary, it's just that you don't maintain any individuality. And I'll talk about communion in a moment. Okay. Hands up, who has heard of the term walk-in? All of us? Yes. Good. What's a walk-in then?
Someone who has exchanged a body with someone else.
Somebody who's exchanged a body with somebody else. Okay? Do we all agree with that? A walk-in is somebody who's exchanged a body with somebody else. I'm going to use the term aspect rather than somebody, because somebody refers to the human condition and not the soul-based condition. Right though, it's the swapping out of aspects. Sometimes souls don't want to do a whole incarnation. They only want to do a certain part of that incarnation. Maybe the birth process. Maybe some point in the life where they're experiencing, shall I say, adolescence, adulthood, the demise process. Who want to do that? Okay? And sometimes a single body is used as a vehicle for many souls, so they can swap in and out. Okay? And that's why sometimes you see, we'll discuss the psychology in a moment, but sometimes you see somebody change overnight. Sometimes there's something profound that happens, like a termination juncture, which is something that we go through, we have the opportunity of using in our incarnate state, where we can leave the body and not incur any karmic value associated with it. So we can share a body. We can walk into a body. One soul can walk out, another soul can walk in. The memory of the previous existence is maintained by the new soul, but sometimes the energy is not quite right in terms of those individuals who, from the human perspective, interface with that soul. And so what we have is, such and such has changed suddenly. They used to be a nice person and now they're not so nice. Or such and such was a right, what's it? And now they're nice people. What's gone on? That's because the soul has changed. There can be many walk-ins in one body in the lifetime of that vehicle. It doesn't need to be one. It can be 1, 2, 3. And it can be temporary. So the soul can move out of that body, go and do something else, and another soul can come in, use the body, experience what they want to experience, and then move out again, so the first, or the primary soul or aspect goes back in again. So it can be temporary. Okay? But there can also be more than one aspect or soul in the body. Okay. Sometimes there's a primary soul animating the body, but another soul may want to experience the incarnate experience, but not particularly be worried about animating the body, interacting with people, working things out, taking on board responsibility, evolving, doing things. And so they will piggyback, so to speak. They will go into the body, but become a backseat passenger, seeing through the eyes of the human vehicle, but not influencing what's going on. That happens quite a lot. I talked about multiple aspects in one body. When may we have multiple souls in one body at the same time? Any thoughts? That's a function of psychology. We'll come back to that in a moment. Hang on to that in a moment. When do we need different souls? Lots of souls in the same body. The answer's up here somewhere. Okay? We need to have souls or multiple souls in the same body when there's a significant piece of work that needs to be done. Those souls can be from the same true energetic self, or Godhead, or Oversoul, or Higher Self, or they can be from different true energetic selves, or Godheads, or Oversouls. It is common for people who are going to have a world or galactic significance to have more than one soul in the same body. There needs to be different specialisms, different experiences, different knowledge bases that aren't normally available to the soul via taking a download, for instance, from the Akashic records. And so each of these souls are allowed to drive the body at certain points. Certain specialisms are used by certain souls to interface with certain environments. And so it's quite common for world leaders to have more than one soul associated with their physical form. Yeah? Quite common. Has anybody seen somebody who changes personality? It happens on a regular basis. Not only when you've had a few beers either. That's a different kind of spirit. So, let's have a quick look at how we incarnate and how it affects us psychologically. Okay. So then, we've got this information for you basically, but twin flames, born as twins, they experience telepathy, don't they? Empathy, the need to be together. Sometimes they need to marry another twin. Okay? They are acting as one because they are one. Two different vehicles, but the same soul. Or three sometimes, or four sometimes. Soulmates almost operate in the same way. They have telepathy, empathy. They know each other before they're meeting, in a similar way that a twin flame would. If you have a soul that's separated at birth from its twin, so two twin souls, and for instance they're adopted because the mother or the father or whatever has happened have to put the children out for adoption, and they're separated, when these humans in their adult state are brought back together again, they will know each other, unequivocally, even if they're blindfolded, in different rooms, and they said, your brother's over there or something, they will know that it's not just a brother or a sister. They will know it's a true soulmate. They will experience deep love for each other. And as with twin flames, they'll probably need to marry each other. They will feel that they need to be together, hand in glove, surgically stitched to each other all the time. They will do everything together. Okay? Soulmates experience profound love for each other all of the time. They can do nothing wrong, will do nothing wrong. They forgive each other all the time. So what about sympathetic souls? It's interesting that sympathetic souls, twin flames and soulmates, operate almost at the same level because they're used to working with each other, or they are the same soul. Yeah? They have similar feelings, similar empathy, similar levels of communication, desires, wants, needs, behaviors, actions, thoughts. Secondary incarnations. These are the shards, by the way. Okay? Oh no. Secondary incarnations are the individuals who've left their primary soul in a different location. How many of you have a feeling about not belonging here, not wanting to be here? Yeah? Yeah, maybe you are somewhere else, really, and you're just here for the ride, and then you go back to where you are. They are mostly loners. They sometimes suffer severe depression. They have difficulty in fitting in. A lot of them have feelings, as I've said previously, about coming from different planets or galaxies, or they experience memories of being surrounded by individuals. Okay? I'll come back to that in a moment. They have feelings of confusion as to their life purpose. They don't know why they're here. What's the point in being here? I don't feel like I belong here. I shouldn't be here. Things don't work properly here. I can't do what I want to do here. I know I can do certain things, but I'm not capable of doing them. There's frustration, sometimes anger. Some of them frequently report being abducted. Because if the primary incarnation is at a level where that vehicle, that primary incarnate vehicle, travels around the galaxy or the universe, and the aspect decides that it wants to experience a lower frequency existence, and that all of its colleagues at that level will also benefit from it, then once in a while they'll take the body away to monitor it, downloading information. How's it coping in this low frequency environment with a higher frequency aspect or soul? Can they maintain its longevity for long enough to make sure that the secondary incarnation is efficient and is being used to its optimal condition? So it's quite regular for, shall I say, medical examinations to happen with these people who are experiencing secondary incarnations, specifically if they are providing lots of information and data about their environment or their particular incarnate vehicle back into the area of where their primary incarnation is. Now, we talked about sub-incarnations and the level of sentience associated with them. 2.5% of the 2.5% that comes from the true energetic self. And so these individuals are particularly attracted to material existence. They're limited in their thought processes, in how they interact with others. They're easily attracted to low frequency behavior patterns, thoughts, actions, desires, wants. And the way they behave is particularly relevant to what they are from a sentient level perspective. They constantly indulge in gossip. They desire and crave material possessions. They want to have status. And they tend to have group mentalities where they coalesce together, where individuals are, shall I say, indulging in low frequency thought processes or actions and behaviors. They are easily attracted to a crowd who are angry. In general, though, they will be average achievers at best and would have simple lives. Okay. What about walk-ins? Lots of us have experienced people who have sudden one-off changes in personality. What about people who've suddenly lost their memory for no reason at all? Anybody experienced that? Somebody or a friend that's lost their memory. There's one over there. Anybody else? Yeah? That's good. Oh, two. Good. or the memory set changes. All of a sudden, your friend that you've known and loved for 25, 30 years doesn't remember you at all, and remembers a completely different set of memories from a different existence in a different part of the world. Or that's sudden changes in behavior. Anybody experience friends or people you know that's sudden changes in behavior? Yeah? Anybody? Good? Yep, good. Again, this is to do with the walk-in. If the walk-in ends up being not temporary, but is permanent. And changes in friendships happen as a result of this as well. And in terms of multiple aspects in one body, okay, you would notice regular changes in personality. Almost like they've got psychosis, that you're speaking to different personalities, different individuals in the same body. Schizophrenia. It's because there are different personalities in the same body. They're different souls, all in the same body. Some of these things talk to each other as well. And you find somebody will walk down the road talking to itself, and it'll change personality and talk to itself again. It's because these souls are all talking at the same time. And there isn't one particular soul that is the dominant soul. The others should really be in the background, just experiencing, backseat passengers, not driving the vehicle. And so these individuals need to be treated to help them understand at a really defined level who the boss is, which of the particular souls or aspects is the leading soul, the primary soul. Actually, one of my friends experienced this, and she's also a QHHT student, and she managed to integrate those souls together so that they all listened to one soul. And that sorted out the schizophrenic problem. It's interesting, isn't it? It could only have been done under a completely regressed state, where all the souls together could be communicated with. And some of them experienced different existences at the same time. For instance, if the one soul, or the aspect that comes from a different true energetic self, has the communication lines open, so to speak, then they may experience what their true energetic self is experiencing as well. And if that true energetic self has most of its aspects projected into a completely different environment within the physical universe, then they may be getting leakage coming through, and therefore they'll be seeing things or experiencing things which are completely out of context from this environment. So this is just a snapshot of what we experience when we incarnate, based upon our incarnate condition, as either an aspect or a shard, a walk-in, or a true twin flame, soulmate, or a sympathetic soul. So there's many other ways of doing this. But when we finish this particular incarnation, we go back. And so I want to share with you how we commune with our true energetic self, our Godhead, or our oversoul, once our incarnation has finished. Okay? In an almost identical but reverse way, the soul leaves the body to the way in which it came into the body. So when the body starts to demise and fail, all of the energies associated with the minor chakras, the energy lines, the mini chakras, the major chakras, start to coalesce towards the soul seat. The energies then move, the soul seat disappears and goes down towards the Tantien. And they move and go back up the little energy line that's called the Hara line, out and back in towards the true energetic self. As the energy that is the essence of sentience, the sentient part of us, moves back up the Hara line, it experiences various different things. But one of the things that is common is the appearance or the feeling of being in a tunnel, an energy tunnel. And this is what some people experience by going through this tunnel before they go out into the light after their physical body demises. The Hara line is what connects the true energetic self, the Godhead, Oversoul, higher self, with the vehicle that the projected aspect or soul is driving or animating. Just for information, when the Japanese used to commit suicide by doing something called harakiri, the idea was that they were cut by the use of their swords or their short swords, the connectivity between the tantien there and the soul seat by cutting the hara line. Harakiri. Harakiri. Harikari we sometimes call it in our ignorance, but it's harakiri, cutting the hara line. And that creates the demise of the human body. So, how many of you fear going back into communion with your higher self? Good. I'm going to explain the different types of communion then. Okay. When the aspect or soul moves out of the human form or any other incarnate body that we particularly use in the physical universe, okay, there's 5 ways that we can commune with ourselves again. In actuality, this way we commune as an aspect, recommuning with the true energetic self, okay, is similar to the way we would commune with Source later, when we've finally gone through the evolutionary process. Full communion is when the whole of the aspect, the energies and the sentience associated with the aspect, completely disperse within the energy that is the true energetic self. Full dispersion of sentience, memory, it's like a drop of water going into the sea, experiencing huge expansion and then total absorption. Complete loss of individuality. Then there's 4 versions of partial communion. The first aspect is when the aspect itself remains projected. Its individuality is maintained. And this is used when the true energetic self wants that particular aspect or soul to experience back-to-back lives. That is, going from one incarnation to the other one in rapid succession. The second is when it's dispersed within the energies associated with the true energetic self, but they remain individualized still. So it's like a personality within a personality. So when we move into this level of communion, we have a moment of expansion followed by omnipresent omniscience. Some people have experienced this in their near-death experiences. Okay? So individuality is maintained, but it's diffuse. It's in the very fabric of what we, as our true energetic self, is. Third version is when the sentience is distributed in little pockets of distribution. Okay? So little bits of us are kept together, but distributed around it. So again, individuality is maintained, but it's separated. So we maintain our individuality. Fourth way is when it's compartmentalized. So we can remain as a whole aspect, a whole soul, but we put into like a pigeonhole, so to speak, within the overall sentient energy that's the true energetic self. So again, we maintain our individuality, but we stay in a single place rather than being diffuse or dotted around the place. And the last one can be a complete mixture of all of those other 3. It can be diffuse, it can be compartmentalized, and it can be dotted around different places. And so the sentience and the memory of that particular entity can be dotted around, compartmentalized, diffuse, in all sorts of different areas. So that's how we commune. So in most cases, we can and do achieve a level of individuality when we recommune with our true self, our higher self, our oversoul or our Godhead. But it's only when we have the true desire to commune that our souls will enter into true dispersion, true communion, by losing the individuality and being totally one with the bigger level of sentient energy, which is our true energetic self. And that's it. Any questions? We've got some microphones over here. Right to the front. How long have we got, Julia?
Time, so maybe take 2 questions. We'll let you take
2 questions then. We've got one over there as well. Yeah.
This may be a little bit confused because it's a pretty big topic, but as you come down as an aspect, it seems like everybody in this room is trying to understand where we came from. So it's good we know that we're there, but since we're here for we should have a purpose that is going to serve our larger self.
Yes.
And is that better served by trying to get back there, or is it better served by being here?
Both. Yeah, both. We recommune when there's no longer a need for us to do the work here. It's a bit like going home after you've been to work, or retiring after you've done your lifetime's work. Once we've finished that, we can recommune in any of those ways that we've just described. So it's a little bit like us using our right hand to write a letter. When we finish writing that letter, we may put our hand back in our pocket if we're lazy. It's the same sort of thing. We only project what we need to project as true energetic selves for as long as we need to project it to experience what we want to experience. That answer the question? I think. See me afterwards. We'll go into detail.
Can a secondary soul choose to come as a sub-incarnation?
Can a secondary soul choose to come back as this is okay?
Well, I guess I'm saying, can the primary soul go into a secondary soul that is a sub-incarnation?
No.
Okay.
No, because it's not part of the natural order of things. This is quite a linear function. Okay? Thankfully for us, quite linear. So what can happen is the primary soul can go into the secondary incarnation, and that can create a shard, which is a sub-incarnation. Okay. Got it? Good. Quick one, over there. Then we've got to get sorted out because I'm being dragged across. The theatrical hoop is dragging my neck.
Thank you. You have defined the multiple aspects of one when you have several spirits affecting the personality of that individual, right? How will you define an attachment when you have more than one soul also affecting the personality of that individual? And the spirit attached to a body.
Do you want to say that again? It's a little bit... can you turn the volume up, please, Travis, yeah?
Oh, you want me to repeat the question?
Yes,
Okay,
please.
You have defined the multiple aspects as one, of multiple spirits in the same body.
Yes.
Affecting the personality of that individual.
Yes.
How would you define an attachment? You have a spirit that it's not a reincarnation, but it's a spirit attached to that body. So you have more than one spirit affecting the personality of that individual as well.
More than one spirit.
An attachment is not a possession, but it's a spirit, it's an energy that attaches to...
So you're talking about an entity that's external to the normal integration.
Yes.
That's, we do sometimes have something that we popularly call astral entities. And they are sort of, they exist in the 4th, 5th, 6th and sort of 7th frequencies associated with the physical universe. And all energy can, over time, create its own intelligence, because that's what energy does. It can coalesce together. And we do sometimes get these energies which create their own intelligence and the desire to become more than they are. And so what these things do is they start to attach themselves to us, for instance, because they can't metabolize their own energy, they can't grow, they can't interface with this environment on their own. So they attach themselves to us, and they take energy from us, and they can sometimes communicate to us or through us in some extreme conditions.
And cause symptoms and also changes in personality.
Yeah, and that's called possession.
Okay, thank you.
And possession is part of the book I'm currently writing, by the way. One more, and then I've got to go because I'm being dragged very quickly. That lady there. Grab the...
I wonder if you could make some distinctions. Okay. I wonder if you could make a few distinctions in some of these categories. Sub-incarnations, how are they different from walk-ins? And secondary incarnations, how are they different from
Right.
walk-ins?
Secondary,
Because it
yeah.
sounds very similar to me.
They're different.
Okay, let me hear the differences.
Okay. A secondary incarnation is an incarnation that's made by the same soul, but at a lower frequency. A walk-in is when a soul walks into a body that was previously used by another soul. And a sub-incarnation is basically an incarnation that's created as a result of the soul or aspect projecting a smaller version of itself as a shard.
Okay.
If you want any further description, I'll come and see me later. We'll work it out.
One more quick question. Okay, so I got that secondary incarnation is the same soul, just left another body and just got a new body?
Yes.
Ah, okay, I didn't get that the first time. And then the shards are fragments of soul then?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. And the multiple souls are several souls that simultaneously came in?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I think that's it. I'm being told we're finished. Thank you very much.